The Sox gathered for the 1986 season and spring training at Winter Haven, Florida, in the fading days of February. Veterans like Rice, Tony Armas, Roger Clemens, and Al Nipper were once again healthy after a winter's rest. And there were new players added to the roster. The Sox swapped designated hitters with the Yankees. Mike Easler for Don Baylor. They traded Jackie Gutierrez to Baltimore for right-handed pitcher Sammy Stewart.
For infield depth, Ed Romero came over from Milwaukee for pitcher Mark Clear. In a multiplayer deal, the Sox got Schiraldi and Gardner from the Mets for Ojeda.
And they picked up veteran left-hander Joe Sambito as a free agent after his release from the Mets. In all, as always, it was the spring of hope for fans, for players, and for second-year manager John McNamara.
The pitching, to me, is the name of the game. We had starters that I felt that had enough experience to compete, and I felt that our pitching, if it were consistent and the bullpen did their job, that we had a chance to be very competitive and to win.
It was a cold day in Motor City as the Red Sox faced Detroit in the season's opener on April 7th. 14-year veteran and 1985 game-winning RBI leader Dwight Evans led off the game and the season as no one ever had.
Left center and gone. Home run, Dwight Evans. My goodness. Evans comes across hitting the first pitch of the season 400 feet away. Mercy.
In the weeks before the 1986 season began, it looked like all the sports and baseball journals were saying the same thing. The Angels are too old. They won't contend. They'll finish sixth. But the men on the field paid no attention to springtime speculation.
Preseason predictions are exactly what they are. They're just guesses. Somebody's got, is bored and has to come up with something to write about. If the people making those selections were such experts, they'd probably be inside the game rather than outside the game.
What they said in the, preseason means nothing. You got to go out there and play 162 games and try to do your best.
For the Angels, that effort to do their best began on April 8th, opening day in Seattle, as Bobby Grich started the season with a bang.
Here's Bobby Grich to lead things off in 1986. The first pitch of 86 is out of here. Bobby Grich starts it in grand fashion for the Angels, and everybody's out to greet him.
The Angels were starting clean as they began the year with one major change, adding a 23-year-old rookie to the starting lineup.
Seconds. Number 21. First baseman, Wally Joyner.
Reaches out, pushes it right side, base hit, rounding third, heading home is Burleson. The ball game is tied.
This young man really looks for real, doesn't he?
Oh, Wally Joyner's for real, all right. Hitting for average, hitting for power. Joyner served notice in April to the baseball world that the Angels had a potent new weapon in their arsenal. Amid all the attention and excitement he created, Joyner was helped by the steadying influence of Reggie Jackson. Showing strength, Reggie and the rookie made a great 1-2 punch.
And here's Reggie, who's hit three. He hits this one deep to right. Well hit, going, it's gone. Back-to-back home runs by Joyner and Jackson, and the Angels have a 2-0 lead.
In '86, Reggie led by example as he adjusted his stroke and went to the opposite field when necessary to get the job done. And on April 30th, who was leading the league with a .420 batting average? None other than Reggie Jackson. Another superstart was enjoyed by Brian Downing, one of the Angels' most consistent players. With 25 RBIs in his first 23 games, Downing was up, and he would keep his production up all year long, driving in 95 runs, 13 of them game winners.
Swung out, and there's a drive. Hit way back left field. Manning looking, it's gone. A home run for Downing. And the Angels win it as the ball clears at the 368 mark out in left field.
Starting lineups for the Seattle Mariners on a cool night, but not unreasonably so, at Fenway with the wind blowing in. Spike Owen will lead off and play shortstop. Phil Bradley in left field. Ken Phelps at first base. Gorman Thomas, the hitter. Jim Presley, third base. Ivan Calderon in right field. Danny Tarnable at second base. Dave Henderson in left field. And Steve Yeager, the catcher. Clemens just kept pouring the coals on a 3-2 count and finally got Spike Owen. And strike 3. Well, a mess of pitches, but they all turned out right for Clemens so far. 2 straight strikeouts. Strike 2. Cuts that inside corner. Phelps trying to wait the walk. Jackknifed a little bit from that, but that caught the inside corner very nicely. And now for the 3rd straight batter, a 3-2 count. What a pattern in that first inning for Roger Clemens. Goes 3-2 on Owen, Bradley, and Phelps, and strikes them all out, swinging for rather startling and awesome first inning. Gorman Thomas, designated hitter, hitting .220 with 4 home runs and 10 runs batted in. There's a shot to left field. Rice back. He's got it. That ball hit hard. Thomas, who has hit the Red Sox hard in the past, this time lines to Jim Rice in left field. And Jim Presley, third baseman, up. That didn't take long at all. A little wrinkle on that third pitch. And Presley is out. Strikeout number 4 for Clemens. Ivan Calderon, the right fielder, lunging for strike 1. He's got strike 2 on Calderon. Working more on his 5th strikeout now if he can get it. Fans are starting to get excited early. Got him. Right across that outside corner, and 2 more strikeouts for Clemens. He's got 5. Strike 3. Number 6.
Struck him out. Went right to the inside corner. And very hard on the fastball from Roger. And that's number 7. Struck him out. Looked like the hard slider there. And Roger has gone to the snowman. That's number 8. Now Roger, a little cat and mouse game as Baylor will play behind Owen now. They don't choose to hold him on over at first. They figure he's going to go anyway. So they'll actually he's kind of holding him on, but he's just dead behind him. He'll move quicker than usual though to defensive set. Popped up right side. Playable for Baylor as he drifts into foul ground now. And has it go off his glove. And that's the play we mentioned that just doesn't like to make.
He's very uncertain on those. He says so himself. Seemed to be right there. Wasn't that hard. And it just went above his head and healed off his glove. He hasn't played first base for about 3 years.
Boy, there's nobody hates that any worse than Don Baylor does, you can bet. Struck it out! Call on a running inside corner fastball. That's number 9 for Roger, but more importantly, he erases the base hit. 1 hit for the Mariners, no score, and they leave one. After 3.5, there is no score in this game with the Red Sox and the Mariners.
Roger fanned the side in the first, got 2 strikeouts in the second, 1 in the third, and 3 more in the fourth. And 1 in the 5th so far. That's number 10. Strike 3, Calderon. On the outer edge. Calderon does not like the call, and that's number 11. Strike 3. Clemens gets the side. He has now struck out 12 through 5 innings. Strike 1. Strike 2. It is 2-2 to Dave Henderson. Got him. 13 and a new Red Sox record. That's 13 in the game and 7 straight strikeouts for Roger Clemens, setting a Red Sox mark for consecutive batters struck out in a game.
This is just about as pretty as you'd want to make it.
Here is Steve Yeager. He flied to center field his first time up. Strike 1 there. So he is the only one that Roger has not fanned so far.
I don't know about you, but every strike he throws sending cold chills down my spine.
Strike two. Yeah, I know what you mean. Strike three. Number 14. Now he's gotten everybody in the lineup.
Strike three. Number 15 for Clemens. He's tied his career high. It's 2-2, not 3-2. Strike him out. On the foul tip, that's number 16 for Roger. 5 hits for Boston, 1 for Seattle. No score, and it's 1-2 to Thomas. Well, you have to think, too, that these Mariner hitters know that they've struck out a lot. And these people at Fenway are all standing. Fly ball, straight away, center field, deep. Lions right at the grill work. It's a home run. Ooh. Right up over the grill work for Gorman Thomas. It's 1-0 Seattle. That's number 5 for the big designated hitter. Drive deep to left center field. This ball is deep, deep, gone. It's a home run. 3-run homer for Evans. The Red Sox lead 3-1.
Nothing in 2. Nothing in 3. 17. And Calderon was just completely lost out there. He was flailing away regardless of where it was. Strike 3. 18. Never has there been this excitement in the last couple of years here. And it's not a sellout crowd by any means, but they're making sellout noises. Red Sox record for strikeouts in a game. Tied the record. 19 for Roger Clemens. Major League record tied. He has 2 batters to go to try to set a new one. Here's Bradley. Ball 1. Here is the record tire.
Didn't lay off the highway.
1-0 pitch to Bradley. Ball 2. Bill Bradley has struck out 3 times. He was number 2, number 7, and number 15. Strike 2. 2-2. And here they come up at Fenway.
I'm surprised they're going back down. I would think they would just stay up.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to stand up.
A new record. Clemens has set a major league record for strikeouts in a game. 20. Just let them yell. 20 strikeouts in a game, and here's Ken Phelps. Ball 1. That would be something if he could finish with a flare and strike out the side.
The way he started, why not?
He did that. To shortstop, Romero. Game's over, and Roger Clemens has fanned 20 for a new record. What a performance by the kid from the University of Texas.
that kind of started us going. That gave us some momentum right there.
And there's a blast to the left center field alley. And that will do it.
It had been 67 years since the Sox's last title, but this team seemed different, giving hope to its long-suffering fans.
Well, I think if you were a Boston fan in '86, every game you watched was like this.
And it hits him. This game is over.
Been through it in 800 different seasons where you thought they were going to be good, and you kind of learned to watch a game with your hands up.
A balk has been called, and Evans comes home. Another impossible win for Boston.
And I think slowly the Red Sox fan was able to kind of open his hands a little bit and look.
Dwight Evans walks, a winning run comes in, and the Red Sox take it 10-9. They're winning every which way.
What a game, what a game. I'm glad for the fans that stayed and watched this game. You got a feeling that something special is here. There's something special going on here.
Their flame-throwing ace won his first 14 decisions, and as the rest of the team heated up, Boston took over first for good in mid-May.
The Red Sox hold on and win an almost impossible ball game.
29th, 1986. The Angels are trailing 12-5 going to the bottom of the ninth inning. Jack Howell drove in a couple runs, and George Hendrick drove in a run, Bobby Grich drove in a run, and suddenly it was 12-8. But by this time there were 2 outs, but the Angels had the bases loaded for Dick Schofield, who was facing Willie Hernandez, and Hernandez promptly got ahead of him 0-2. And if you recall, Al, Schofield just looked terrible on both those pitches, and everybody thought, okay, he's going to strike out Schofield, and the ball game's going to end. It's a great, valiant comeback, but it's going to fall short. Let's pick it up.
Gene Mauch watching from his dugout. He has to be proud of the effort no matter how it turns out. The strike 2 to Schofield is swung on and belted deep to left field. Clemens going back, away back, it is gone. A grand slam for Schofield. The Angels win, and I don't believe it.
Al, I mentioned on the pregame talk show tonight, and I recapped the whole thing in greater detail because I had all the hits that led up to the home run, but I still get a thrill out of hearing that 4 years later.
I do too, because I sound so young then. I think I even had hair then. I'm not even sure about that. But it was quite a moment. I'll never forget it, and as you pointed out in setting it up, it seemed impossible. They were down 12-5, and they had Hernandez on the mound, who was only a year or so before the MVP and Cy Young Award winner. He was ahead. He got the screwball working, and then he hung something, and Schofield laced it out, and it was really a most memorable time. And I think if you look back on the history of the club, I don't think there's a bigger comeback than that one. No, fact, you knew that night. I may have even said it a few moments later on that same tape, that with that home run, it was my feeling at the time there'd be no stopping them now. There'd be no stopping the Angels from a divisional championship. And in games like that, if you can come back and win 13-12 when you're down to your last strike and come back with 8 runs as the Angels did, that to me was a sign that the gods were with them that year.
Yeah,
to a point.
I think we all felt the same way, and that turned out to be a very memorable weekend. Because if you recall, the next night, Doug DeCense
line drive
hit a 2-run homer in the 9th inning to win, and then they had another late inning rally. I believe it was the bottom of the 8th in the Sunday game, and I want to say it was George Hendrick who got a triple to drive in 3, and the Angels won that one. So it turned out to be just an incredible weekend, and I think we all knew after that the Angels were going to win the division.
Last night, the Angels went into the 8th inning down a run and looking for a little magic. And they found it in the bat of one Reginald Martinez Jackson. A 2-run blast that keyed a 4-run inning and reduced the magic number to 2. Tonight, it could reach 0. The Angels are 9 innings away from another title. Gary Pettis with one of the 2 hits off Mason tonight. Curveball is hit well and deep to left. Back is Bajorek. He won't get it. Goodbye. 2-1. Pettis with his 4th home run of the year, and he gets the Angels on the board. Hard hit ball deep to left center off Downing's bat, and it is gone. A home run. The Angels take the lead. Hard hit ball deep to left from Hendrick. This one is way back. It's gone. 3 home runs in the inning for the Angels, and they lead it 4-2. Hits one high and deep to left. This one is way back, and it's gone. Another home run for Brian Downing. A 3-run shot for Brian Downing. 5 RBIs, and the Angels lead it 8-2. The dugout, right on the edge of things. You see the security force down in there as well. The pitch, it's all over. The magic number is 0. Here come the players, and here come the fans. And the players trying to get out of there as best they can. They head for the dugout. It is all over. The Angels win the Western Division title, and wait to find out when Boston's going to win their division.
The Red Sox assignment for September was simple enough: win. They would play second place Toronto 6 times and third place New York 7. The players knew beyond all question that they and they alone would be the masters of their own destiny.
We can hit the ball where there's no defensive guy out there. We can't make too many mental mistakes. And if you don't make too many mental mistakes, you got a chance to win. If we continue getting the pitching that we have right now and the hitting come around, because we haven't had everyone hit at the same time, I hope eventually they will start doing that. We're going to win.
For the pitching with any team, that's really what takes you into the playoffs and the World Series is pitching, and they've done phenomenal this first half, and they've just got to come out and do the same thing that they've done in the past, and if we continue to hit, we're going to win.
The Texas Rangers were first into Fenway for a 3-game stand. 3 times the Rangers took a lead, and 3 times the Sox came from behind to win.
Drive to left center field. It's going to be in there for a gap.
Minnesota was next, and again the Sox were behind. That is until Captain Jim Rice led by example. He followed the next night with a game-tying single to set up a winning shot by Marty Barrett. And then, for final measure, he closed out the Twins and the series on the 3rd night. It was his 2nd grand slam in 3 days.
Next was Baltimore, but the Birds could do no better than take 1 of 4 as Jim Rice and friends continued to put the ball out of play.
Including Rice's 2 grand slams, the Sox had notched 16 home runs in the first 10 days of the month. But more importantly, they had won 11 in a row, 3 times with their last at-bats. Boston's 11 straight tied the Major League win mark for the year and put Boston 8.5 games up on the division. Next came New York, another win, and Bill Buckner's 7th home run in 8 games, his 100th RBI for the season.
They knew what they had to do. We were going into September, and Toronto had won 9 in a row, and the pressure has been on us all season long, and I was very proud at that stage of the season that everybody made a run at us, and we were able to turn them all back.
A sweep of Milwaukee and a big Clemens win in Toronto continued to close the gap on the Sox magic number.
And then, finally, on September 28th, after 11 years of waiting, the chance for a championship came back to Boston.
Steve here picked the best day to come to be with the rest of the great fans of Boston. See us clinch this.
The Red Sox were ready. They had the power, which had come perfectly to peak in September. And they had a man on the mound who desperately wanted to win. It would be his chance for a career-high 16th win. His chance to redeem his Fenway opening day loss. His chance for a moment of glory in a most troubled season.
The curveball dropped over for strike 3. Number 9 for Boyd. To left field. Jim Rice. 2 out. A high pop-up. This may do it. Buckner is there. It's all over. The Red Sox are the new division champions.
The Sox closed out the 1986 regular season on October 5th. They had won the division by 5.5 games over the Yankees, with an overall record of 95 wins against 66 defeats. They were the Eastern Division champions of the American League. It was the culmination of a long and arduous season. But for the players, manager, and coaches, the 1986 regular season was only Chapter 1 of a championship trilogy. Chapter 2 was at hand, and it would prove to be just as demanding for the men who were the Red Sox.
In 1986, the Angels and Red Sox combined for 187 regular season wins. But when October comes, everyone returns to zero.
Fenway Park, and the site tonight of Game 1 of the 1986 American League Championship Series.
At its heart, the ALCS was about numbers, like 1918, the last time Boston had won a World Series.
Because the Red Sox had already established that they couldn't win a World Series for 68 years. I think around the country, people were fascinated. Well, can they get over the hump this time?
Meanwhile, for the Angels and their skipper, the number of note was 25.
Gene Mauch, in his 25th season of managing, looking for his first World Championship.
I'd like this team to win this championship more than I like to eat when I'm hungry.
We felt very confident. We were on a roll. We were playing very well. And we had a closer that dominated the season.
Donnie Moore is the stopper for the Angels. He is sound. He is one of the most superlative relief pitchers in the game.
You know, he threw the stuff that just fell off the table. You know, it's very, very hard to hit. And when you brought Donnie Moore into a game, if you were Gene Mauch, you thought this game is over.
We knew it was going to be a battle.
Roger Clemens, the best pitcher in baseball, he'll work tonight.
We just wanted to win one game in Fenway and go back to our home field where we played very well.
Growing pains, moonlighting, and Jack and Mike will not be seen tonight, but will return next week. Now stay tuned for the following ABC Sports exclusive.
ABC Sports presents the American League Championship Series. From Fenway Park in Boston, Game 1, the California Angels taking on the Boston Red Sox. And the two staff aces facing each other, Mike Witt and Roger Clemens. The Angels clinching the West a week ago Friday, their third division crown in 8 seasons. And a week ago Sunday, the Red Sox clinched the East, their first division title since 1975. A clear, cool night in New England, and you are looking at a true national treasure. Fenway Park, capacity about 35,000 in Boston, and the site tonight of Game 1 of the 1986 American League Championship Series. I'm Al Michaels. Welcome to Boston. I think it's going to be a terrific series, and we have a great cast of individual characters. It's October, and of course we have Reggie Jackson here. On Saturday, you'll see 300-game winner Don Sutton working. Jim Rice of the Boston Red Sox finally beginning to get his due. Wade Boggs of the Boston Red Sox, who has now won 3 batting titles in the last 4 seasons. And the bright young stars, Roger Clemens, the best pitcher in baseball, he'll work tonight. And the rookie first baseman of the Angel, Wally Joyner. And a true East against West situation, the Atlantic Ocean about 4 miles that way. When we get to Anaheim, the Pacific, about 4 miles that way. And two of the more intriguing managers in baseball, both looking for their first World Championship. Gene Mauch in his 25th season of managing, and John McNamara of the Boston Red Sox.
I'd like this team to win this championship more than I like to eat when I'm hungry. Not because I've never been there, Al. It's simply because it's a thing to do. Winning is a thing to do.
Up until this year, what would you consider to have been your most satisfying season as a manager?
Oh, I don't really know. Years ago, when a lot of people said I was pretty hot stuff, I might have been have a tendency to believe them and be willing to take a lot of credit. But it doesn't take long to find out that players carry managers to championships. And this will be undoubtedly a highlight of my baseball life.
Well, it is. To be in this city, in this town, there was satisfaction in '79 when we won the division in Cincinnati. But no, this is the ultimate right now. plus the fact we had to turn back a lot of critics off the field, not only here in the the Boston, New England area, but from coast to coast. We were maligned, and from things that happened here in the past. That's a satisfaction.
So many interesting little subplots in this series. The Angels do not like to be referred to as an old group, but in terms of baseball, they are. It's an elderly group, average age in the 30s. And several of the players don't know where they'll be in 1987. Several of the key Angels are in the final year of their contract. And there, a look at some of the California Angel potential free agents. What effect will that have on postseason play? Here's what a couple of those men think.
I would say sometimes it makes players selfish. Sometimes it makes them forget about winning one for the Gipper. A lot of people say, hey, are you trying to win this for Mr. Autry? Are you trying to win this for Gene Mauch because he's never won a pennant before? Really, there have been times to me when, yes, we're trying to win, and yes, I'm trying to win and do well because Reggie Jackson is trying to survive for Reggie Jackson. And I think that a lot of the players, especially the free agents on the team, feel the same way. I think there's been some discomfort at times because of the fact that we all may be going our own separate ways, and there have been times when there's been some animosity on the ball club because players are out there playing for themselves. But what can you expect when a guy is trying to survive his baseball life?
I think that each individual player, not knowing what their future is going to be here, has had to deal with that separately in their own way. And through the course of the season, they've had some ups and downs with it, and they've come out on top. And I'm proud to be a member of a team that guys that are not only able to overcome the stress and strain of winning the division, but also the personal stress and strain of not knowing where they're going to be and what they're going to do. And I think that that's been a real added strength. And as I mentioned earlier, the intensity level and the pride of the professionals on this team is great.
And we're proud to have Jim Power with us as our analyst on this series. Jim, as far as the Angels situation is concerned, do you think it's a positive or a negative?
Well, it certainly has been a positive during the course of the season, and I don't look for it to be anything but that now. Mike Ford, the general manager, made a very good point. He said these guys are fighting for their lives. He said, but if they play well and we don't want them, somebody else would. Case in point, of course, was last year. Rod Carew gets his 3,000th hit. They have somebody in the minor league to take his place. Wally Joyner, most likely going to be Rookie of the Year, 100 RBIs. A lot of these guys may not be playing in California next year, but they will be playing somewhere else because they've been contributors and they've had good seasons.
So game one coming up very shortly, and in just a moment when we come back, our pregame show continues with a look at the recent troubles of the Red Sox. A lot of Red Sox fans, I think, are pinching themselves right now. They can't believe tonight is finally here. So many skeptics among them, and they had reason to be, much like the Cubs, who took so long to win a pennant between 45 and 84. The Red Sox have made it to the playoffs as we take a look back at some of their recent frustrations. There was the oddest sort of frustration in 1972. It was the year of the first players' strike that wiped out several games at the outset of the season. And when they picked the schedule up, they did not make up the games, and thus teams played disparate numbers of games. And at the end of the year, the Tigers had played one more than the Red Sox. They had won it, and thus Boston finished second by half a game. In 1974, the Sox on the 23rd day of August were 7 games in front in the American League East, and El Tiante, the great Louis Tiant, had already won 20. There were the standings on the 23rd day of August 1974, a 7-game cushion, but by the 4th of September, barely 2 weeks later, Boston and the Yankees were tied for first, and at the end, the Red Sox finished third. They did win the pennant, but lost the series in 75, and then in 77 on September the 12th, the Red Sox were a game and a half back of the New York Yankees with a big showdown upcoming at Yankee Stadium in New York. It was Reggie Jackson's first season in pinstripes. And in the second game of that critical 4-game series with Reggie Cleveland working for Boston, Jackson hit one out. Yankees won it 2-0, and when the season was over, Boston was second again, 2.5 back of New York. Then in 1978, the ultimate in recent frustration for Boston. On the 19th of July, they led Milwaukee by 9, and the Yankees 14 games back in 4th place. And it was a banner summer at Fenway Park, especially so for Jim Rice, who was on his way to winning the league's MVP award. A season in which Rice would hit 46 home runs and drive in 139. But in a big 4-game series in September, the Yankees routed and swept the Red Sox. And eventually the two teams finished the regular season dead even, forcing a 1-game playoff at Fenway Park, October 1978. 7th inning, Red Sox 2, Yankees nothing. 2 men aboard for New York, and Mike Torres working to Bucky Dent. That 3-run homer gave the Yankees the lead. They added 2 more, and then the Red Sox came back with 2, and it was 5-4 Yankees in the bottom of the 9th inning. And with the tying and winning runs on, Goose Gossage facing Carl Yastrzemski with 2 down. Greg Nettles put it away for the Yankees, who went on to the World Series. And so the agonies of the not-too-distant past make even frosty nights waiting in line for playoff and World Series tickets a joyful ritual and a symbol of the indomitable faith of the Red Sox faithful. Drive off his elbow last Wednesday, heating up in the Boston bullpen, a mark of 24-4 and the sure Cy Young winner. And the American League taking on Mike Witt of the California Angels in Game 1.
Number 41.
And Game 1 about to come your way now on a clear, crisp New England night. And Jim Palmer, obviously in any short series, pitching is extremely important. Let's talk in particular about 2 men here, the stoppers in the bullpen, Donnie Moore of the California Angels and Calvin Schiraldi of the Boston Red Sox.
Well, Donnie Moore is the stopper for the Angels, has arm problems all year. If he is sound, he is one of the most superlative relief pitchers in the game. Calvin Schiraldi came on the end of the year. He is really the only overpowering relief pitcher Boston's had since Dick Radix. Bob Stanley's out in the bullpen, has kind of had an off-and-on year, but is a sinker baller.
If you were to give the edge to one bullpen over the other, it would be?
I think I'd go with California. Gary Lucas gives them a great left-handed counterpart to go with Donnie Moore. But again, Donnie Moore has to be healthy, and he hasn't been all year.
And Bob Stanley has been having his problems trying to set up Schiraldi in the Boston bullpen. Let's talk about another thing, too, on the eve of this series, the Fenway factor. For so many years, the Boston Red Sox built around this park. Do they necessarily have an advantage in Fenway over the California Angels?
Well, they got out-homered by 30 home runs. Opponents hit 85. They only hit 55 this year. So they are a team built on pitching, and with the exception of maybe a week to a 10-day period, they have gotten where they've gotten tonight, which is to the playoffs on their pitching. And they probably are a better defensive ball club here, Al, because of their lack of speed. It's a smaller left field and center field area. When they get out to Anaheim, I think they have a distinct disadvantage.
Funny thing about this series, for so many years now, we've been talking about AstroTurf playing surfaces and speed, and last year the Cardinals and the Dodgers and the Royals in the playoffs with great speed, but there's only one base-stealing threat in this entire series, Gary Pettis.
That's really true. Dick Schofield, who plays shortstop for California, can steal some bases, 23, but I think the one thing that we really haven't mentioned is Tom Seaver, out with a knee injury, will not be part of this. That means they have to go to Al Nipper. Would you rather have Seaver or Nipper as your fourth starter? Very important part.
Nipper, or as McNamara says, if they're down 0-3 or 1-2, he may come back with Clemens. Okay, 35,000 looking on at Fenway Park. We're ready to meet the starting lineups, and let's join the long-time and heralded PA announcer at Fenway, Sherm Phillips.
Manager Gene Lott. Batting first, playing right field, number 13, Rupert Jones. Batting second, playing third base, number 21, Wally Joyner. Batting third, left fielder number 5, Ryan Downing. Batting fourth, the designated hitter, number 44, Reggie Jackson. Batting fifth, playing third base, number 11, Doug Sante. Batting sixth, playing second base, number 9, Rob Wilpon. The seventh hitter, the shortstop, number 22, Dick Schofield. Batting eighth and catching, number 8, Bob Wood. Batting ninth, playing center field, number 24, Gary Pettit. Warming up the bullpen, and starting pitcher, number 39, Mike Witt. And now, the East Division champion Red Sox, the manager, number 1, John McNamara. Leading off, playing third base, number 26, Wade Boggs. Batting second, playing second base, number 17, Marty Barrett. Third, playing third base, number 6, Bill Buckner. Batting fourth, playing left field, number 14, Jim Rice. Batting fifth, designated hitter, number 25, Don Taylor. Batting sixth, right fielder, number 24, Dwight Evans. Batting seventh, playing center field, number 20, Tony Armas. Batting eighth, the Red Sox catcher, number 10, Witt Desmond. Batting ninth, playing shortstop, number 5, Mike Owen. Warming up in the Boston bullpen, tonight's starting pitcher, Roger Clemens. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to stand and join Boston's Roger Bennett in the singing of our national anthem.
Finally, at hand now, the start of the series. Coming up, Game 1 of the 1986 American League Championship Series. The Red Sox with Roger Clemens taking the field, and that was in question Wednesday night in his last start against Baltimore. Hit just above the elbow with a line drive off the bat of the Orioles' John Stafaro. And that gave Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and half of Connecticut a collective heart attack. But he appears to be okay. He will go to the mound in Game 1, and Clemens reflects upon last Wednesday evening.
It's been funny. Last year with the surgery, I didn't get into September, and but this year has been a different year for me. It's you know, it seems like nothing could go wrong, and then here I am on my final start of the year, the regular season, and I get a line drive hit back off me, and I want it to hit me in my back, and when you know it hits me right, the smack on my elbow, and the worst place it could hit, it just went numb, and I didn't really think anything. I didn't think, oh no, it's over or something like that. My season's over, because it just went numb kind of, and I've had a lot of balls hit back at the middle at me before and taken a lot of shots off my body. So after I got into the training room, Dr. Pappas looking at me, and I realized after about 15 minutes I didn't think anything was broke, because I could move it a little bit, and then the numbness has gone away. And but I tell you, it was like it was pretty quiet in Fenway Park after that happened, and that's always a good feeling, to know everybody's emotions are with you when you're walking off the field like that and you're in that kind of pain. My arm's 100%. I don't want to talk about my arm anymore. It's fine.
And there he is live, Roger Clemens, whose mark of 24-4 is the same turned in by Dwight Gooden of the Mets last year. And back of Clemens now, 36-year-old Bill Buckner is at first base. And at second base is the unsung one of the Red Sox, Marty Barrett. Moves men along, covers a good deal of ground. Spike Owen came over in a deal with the Mariners in August. And the batting champion, Wade Boggs, is at third. The outfield, Jim Rice, an MVP type of year. In left, Tony Armas is the center fielder. And the longtime right fielder, he was here in '75, the last time the Sox were in the playoffs, Dwight Evans. Back of the plate is Rich Gedman, who took a foul tip off his shoulder on Saturday, but he's okay. And Jim, as we watch Roger Clemens, what...
Roger Clemens to have to do is bring the ball down in the strike zone. If they chase the high fastball, and we're talking a fastball somewhere 95, 97, he's going to be effective. They wanted him to throw those strikes. Let's see if he can do it.
Rupert Jones to lead things off, and a swing and a miss, and the count is 0-1. Jones, Joyner, and Downing in the top of the first. Games 1 and 2 to be played at Fenway. 3, 4, and 5 if necessary in Anaheim. And Jones tries to bunt his way on. 0-2. Gene Mauch has for years juggled his lineup no matter where he's been. And no difference this season in California. He has used 9 different leadoff hitters, including Jones, who gets the start there tonight. And the 0-2 pitch to him is high. 1-2 on Rupert.
And that's the pitch right there that you have to lay off of. Again, what makes Roger Clemens so special, he has good enough control to get ahead of you and then make you chase that pitch.
Took something off it, and down he goes as Jones got fooled. And so Clemens, who normally throws in the mid-90s, brings one in at about 88, and down goes Jones.
It looks like it's just a little bit of a slider right on the outside corner. And again, look at the way that Gedman catches the ball. Gives Larry Barnetti great look at it. That's how you get those strikeouts, those borderline pitches.
Now Wally Joyner. Overall, a great year, but a much better first half and second half. He really tailed off after the All-Star break. In there. 0-1. Clemens normally clocked in the mid-90s, and he's right up there at the outset tonight. And Joyner on a check swing holds back, and the count is 1-1. So at least at the outset, no evidence of any problem with Clemens, who had to come out of the game the other night with a 4-0 lead. 2-1, and he was talking about the fact a couple of days later when it appeared there was no damage and he'd be able to make the start of his disappointment in not being able to stay in and probably notch number 25. Ripped to right field, and Joyner has a base hit and maybe two. Remember, Evans has a good arm, and Joyner, after hesitating, keeps on going and is in there. Joyner, as he rounded first, thought about Evans's reputation, but then kept on going anyway for a double.
What makes this play easy for a base runner is the play is right in front of him. Again, behind in the count, gets a pretty good pitch to hit right in the middle of the plate. Right there, you know that Evans has to go a long way. The play's in front of you, bobbles the ball, and that's where Wally decides to go into second base. I think that's what caused the slight hesitation. That and the respect for Dwight Evans' arms.
Brian Downing at the plate now. Downing, one of 3 Angels with over 90 runs batted in, and takes his strike. Larry Barnett, and he's another story, is the home plate umpire tonight with Larry McCoy, Terry Cooney, and Nick Bremigan, and then Rocky Road down the line in left, and Rich Garcia down the line in right. 6 umpires in postseason play. The 0-1 is swing and a miss. The story on Barnett, just to refresh you briefly, he was the umpire in the 1975 World Series involved in the controversial arm wrister fist play, the interference call. Cincinnati won the game, and when the series got back to Boston, Barnett, the plate umpire tonight, was the third base umpire that night and needed police protection. Just outside, 1-2.
There you had a look at the slider. Again, take another look at it. Judge for yourself. It's a ball that just about gets the outside corner. Looks like it's right on the corner, but Larry Barnett did not think so. Larry, as most American League umpires, has had to make that transition from the outside protector. And you can see him down on one knee.
As Downing hits a soft liner to third, he broke his bat on it, and Joyner alertly gets back to second. And there are 2 down now, and here comes Reggie.
44. From another angle, he just missed with a slider away. He goes in on him. As you said, Al breaks the bat, and the ball's right at Wade Boggs at third base. Something right here, you look at the wall here as a pitcher and you say, well, I'm just going to try to establish the outside part of the plate. To be effective, you have to be able to pitch in both halves of the plate. Establish the ball away and also get inside. Right there we saw an example of it.
Clemens working on Jackson, and first base open, and the right-hand batting the sensei on deck with Joyner at second base. 2 down in the top of the first inning. High for a ball. So here it is, Jackson time, the 7th of October. Reggie in his career is at .234 with 6 homers in the playoffs, .357 with 10 homers in the World Series. So maybe we should call him Mr. Mid-October. Outside, and the count 2-0. In there, and the count 2-1. Not that Reggie will see anything decent under any circumstance, especially with Clemens control, but Roger has the added benefit here of first base being open.
Well, it's also something to consider is he has not thrown a 3-run home run or a grand slam in the last 2 years, so he doesn't want the big inning.
2-2 on Reggie.
I think the reason that Reggie is hitting between Brian Downing, who has been extremely hot, and Douglas Sensei, is that Gene Mauch feels that Reggie will get more pitches to hit.
Crowd ready to explode for the first time tonight. Keys in hand. but it's high in the count, 3-2. And the 3-2 to Jackson. A hand swing, it's high. They appeal no, ball 4, says third base umpire Nick Premigan. And the Angels have runners at first and second.
You see the high fastball, the pitch that Reggie does not want to swing at. Again, when you've hit as many home runs as Reggie has, you have to be strong. There, the strength allows him to stop his swing.
Now Doug the Sensei, who really carried this club in August. His numbers on the year reflecting his potency, especially the RBIs. And I think a man who's a very key man in this series, because behind him you have Wilfong, Schofield, Boone, and Pettis. Outside on the count 1-0. So the Angels really, when you look at that lineup, are top-heavy, much as the Royals were last year. The potency and the power is up front. In the air to center and deep, but Armas goes back and has room to make the catch against the wall. And that's a 410-foot out to end the top of the first after a half in game 1. Angels nothing, Sox coming up. Wade Boggs will be leading things off for the Red Sox in the bottom of the first. He missed the Yankee series over the weekend with a slightly torn hamstring. And here's the update on his condition.
It's coming along. It's responding to therapy. The hole is closing, thank goodness. 4 days of heat, ice, weights, and right now it's responding. It feels pretty good.
And you can run at what percentage? 90 maybe?
Maybe 90. If I tried 100%, it might snap, but I'll have to find out that when I get a ground ball out of the box.
What about lateral mobility at third? Is that of any concern to you right now?
Possibly the quick start to the left, maybe, but I'll have to deal with that when I come. I think the sheath that I've got over it now, rubber sheath, will enable me to hold the muscle together.
And Boggs will be standing in to face Mike Witt, 18-10 this season, third best ERA in the league. And here's Bob Boone on Witt.
33.
Mike Witt's an outstanding, still young talent. He has outstanding stuff, fastball and breaking ball. He's learned himself over the years. Since I've been here, he has become progressively better, and it's primarily because he has learned himself, learned that when he gets out of his rhythm, what it takes to get back into it, and he doesn't have the lapses where he just forgets how to throw. He's been our most consistent pitcher all year, and he's just an outstanding talent, and it takes a lot of heat sometimes because people expect so much from him, but people forget sometimes that he's still a baby.
So Witt to face the Red Sox, and the Angels coming up just a little short as the Sensei hits one to the deepest part of the park.
A little bit farther to the right, you might have a little bit more room, but Armas doesn't have the speed he used to have, but gets back to the wall and makes the catch. One of the reasons that ball stayed in the ballpark is that Clemens got the ball just a little bit far enough away from the Sensei that he couldn't quite get to it. That ball is a little bit more in the middle of the plate. It's off the wall for most likely a double and a couple of runs in.
The Angels downing Pettis, covers a lot of ground, and Jones. The Sensei Schofield. Wilfong is at second. He's platooning with Grich and Joyner at first. Boone is catching, and Mike Witt, the ace of the Angels staff, goes to the mound. The way the Angels have their rotation set up, Witt goes tonight and then in a 15 Sunday if necessary. Wade Boggs to lead things off and takes a strike. Boggs, 5 years in the big leagues and 3 batting championships. Edged John Mattingly by 5 points this season. 1-1. Here at Fenway Park with its nooks and its crannies, 315 down the line and then 379 to left center. Deepest part of the park, just to the right of dead center, is 420. And down the right field line, if you can hook one down the line, as you can see there around the foul pole, that's a cheap home run, and then it really fans out to more honest dimensions in right and right center. In there. 2-2 on Boggs.
That really is the only place you can hit a cheap home run if you're a
left-handed hitter if you pull the ball, which is right around that foul pole. And the way they're going to try to pitch to Wade Boggs, and of course the whole American League has been trying to do that, is a lot of breaking balls.
Still
Take a look. It's where Billy Buckner likes to hit him. Drop the head of the bat, and the minute you get away from that corner, it takes quite a poke to hit a home run if you're left-handed. Now, Wade Boggs is one of the most adept hitters going the other way and taking advantage of the wall.
Fouled away again. And in the bottom of the first, Gene Autry, the old cowboy.
Over the years has been referred to as a 26th man. I guess it's appropriate this year with a 24-man roster. Now he is the 25th man.
The Angel owner, the man who brought the team into the American League back in '61. And they call him the 26th man, and they've retired number 26 in his honor. And John McNamara, who was the manager of the Angels for 2 seasons in '83 and '84, now in his second year with the Sox. 3-2 to Boggs is lifted down the line into foul territory and back out of play. So Boggs, as he is prone to do, will foul off pitch after pitch. Not only is he a great hitter, that's proven, he also walks a lot. He led the league in walks this season with 105.
Well, he loves to hit with 2 strikes. Last year hit .390 with 2 strikes. So this is not an unfamiliar situation, a position for him to be in, and it's one he relishes.
And he's on. So Wade Boggs was able to work Witt for the walk, and the Sox have a man on with nobody out, and Marty Barrett coming to the plate. The Red Sox in August flip-flopped Boggs and Barrett. Barrett had been leading off, Boggs batting second, and now they're in a position in which McNamara can have Barrett move Boggs along, either by bunting or hitting to the right side, and it's something at which Barrett is very adept. And he's up there to bunt, fouls it away. 0-1.
Well, of course, Mike Witt is aware of that. Marty had 13 sacrifice bunts during the season, and the most difficult pitch to really lay the ball down on is the high fastball. And Witt is really, I think, if you wanted to characterize him, a better curveball pitcher than he is a fastball pitcher, even though his fastball is in the 90-mile-per-hour range. So he went with a high fastball. Barrett couldn't get on top of it.
Marty already has squared and takes outside. And the count 1-1.
I think this is something that we talked about. This is so traditionally un-Boston-like. Normally you think of the Red Sox as being a team that plays for the big inning. Yet in so many cases, you have a man right here, Marty Barrett, one of the best hit-and-run men, yet they know they have Clemens on the mound, want to get 1 or 2 runs. It seemed to suffice most of the year. Maybe it will again tonight.
Barrett led the league in sacrifices with 18. This time he swings away, backhanded by the Sensei to Wilfong to first, double play. And with the Sensei playing in, he was right there, able to glove it and start the DP.
Well, Doug was talking yesterday about how fast this infield is in respecting the bunt. Curveball up in the strike zone. Doug just backhands it. The minute he makes the play, he knows, and you see him slip a bit, that he has 2. Barrett doesn't run that well. Relay for the second out.
So 2 gone with the bases empty, no score. Bottom of the first inning in game 1, and Bill Buckner the batter. In there. So many players on both teams, part of championship teams in the early and mid-70s. Buckner is one of them. The National League champion Dodgers in 1974. That's the last time he played in a postseason game, 12 years ago. As Mike Witt delivers to Buckner, who hammers it to center field, and it's Jones, or Pettis rather, going back to make the catch. Gary almost came in too far. At the end of 1, no score in Boston. Jim Rice, another great season at the age of 33, and talks about his career at this point.
Well, I think I'm in my prime. I'm still learning. Of course, we acquired Don Bale this year, and I started doing some of the things that I did in '75. And I was hitting the ball to the right side, sacrificing myself, which I don't mind giving up. As far as prime, I feel like I still can hit 30 home runs. I don't know how many years I have remaining to play with this body that I have, but every year that I play, I'm going to try to do the things that I've been doing. That's continue hitting 300, driving 100 runs, and hitting 30 home runs a year. And, of course, I think if I can do that the rest of my life or the rest of my career, I should be fortunate enough to go in the Hall of Fame.
Second base, Wilfong.
And his number is getting up in that range right now. Second inning, no score. Rob Wilfong leads off for California. And the count 1-0. Some question, I guess, as to what Gene Mauch would do in postseason play. For the most part, Wilfong and Bobby Grich have been platooning during the regular season up high. And there was some feeling that maybe he would go with Grich, but at least at the outset, it's Wilfong to face Clemens.
Well, I was standing next to Bobby when they posted the lineup, and he was a little bit surprised. Again, Bobby Grich, one of the more intense players that I ever played with, wanted to be in there. Been in this situation before in playoffs and so forth. And again, you're looking at a guy right here that can do a lot of things for you. But he also knows that he's not a home run hitter, only 3 on the year. So he's going to have to bunt, get on base, and try to do the little things, because he is not a home run hitter. I think he knows his capabilities.
2 balls, 2 strikes, the count. Clemens struck out 1 in the first. He got Jones leading off. And he gets Wilfong leading off on a mismatch. Just blew him away. So 1 down. Schofield, the batter, and we'll be here at 3 Eastern time tomorrow when Kirk McCaskill goes to the mound for the Angels against the lefty Bruce Hurst, who pitched extremely well down the stretch in Game 2 of the American League Championship Series, with the Astros and the Mets getting started in the National tomorrow night at 8.
What a game that's going to be. Mike Scott and Dwight Gooden.
0-1 pitch. Can't swing. He came around, and the count is 0-2.
So once again, the high fastball. We saw Rob Wilfong swing right through it. Schofield again didn't want to swing at that pitch, but when you're throwing 95 to 98 out, you don't have a lot of chance to make up your mind. You're talking about a second. So you got to get the bat started. Didn't get it started quick enough there.
2 down.
Another example of the good fastball, and the one thing that's so impressive about Roger Clemens, classic delivery, but also he knows what his strength is. He is not usually going to get beat on a hanging slide or a hanging curveball. He has a good fastball he's going to go with. That's what we've seen tonight.
Bob Boone at the plate, 1-0. Bob Boone catches almost every day for California, but when Gene Mauch gives Boone a day off, he really knows when to give him a day off. Clemens faced the Angels 3 times this season, and Boone got the day off on each occasion. And good luck to Jerry Narron, the reserve catcher, who was in the lineup each time against Clemens.
Well, again, that's a matter of Gene Mauch, probably, as you said, letting Bob Boone, who caught 144 games over the year, second to Jody Davis, who caught for the Cubs, a needed rest. But on the other hand, Jerry Narron's a fastball hitter, so you want to enhance the chances of maybe getting your catcher a chance to get a few more base hits. Tonight, I believe that Bob Boone is catching mainly because he talked about the inexperience of Mike Witt, even though he did have a fine year winning 18 ball games. Gene Mauch wants Bob Boone's expertise behind the plate. Much better defensive catcher than Jerry Narron.
3-1. And Clemens thought he got squeezed by Barnett. 3-1 with 2 down and the bases empty.
And we talked about the classic motion. He uses his legs. He said his idols were Tom Seaver and Nolan Ryan. Can't think of 2 better pitchers that use all their part of their body, arms, legs, lower back, and hips, to get the most out of the delivery.
With 2 down, Boone draws the walk, and it brings up Gary Pettis. Pettis, the switch-hitting center fielder.
Gary Pettis.
Gary with great speed. We talked about the fact he's the only true base-stealing threat in this series. Schofield and Barrett will run on occasion. But he also strikes out an inordinate amount of time. And there, ineligible, is Tom Seaver, as you know, with a knee problem. If it responds to treatment and the Red Sox get into the World Series, he would be eligible to pitch in the series, so they could reactivate him. If they don't, it might be the end of Seaver's career.
Even though he has said that he would like to come back and pitch next year. Again, we talked about Clemens using his whole body. Tom, one of his major attributes is the way he uses his legs. So obviously his right leg, which is the knee he hurt, very instrumental in getting a lot of power in pitching. It may seem insignificant, but a lot of times, and you talked about Gary Pettis really being the only guy that can really steal a lot of bases. When I would pitch, I would rather have Pettis coming up with 2 outs than leading off an inning. So maybe you lose your concentration a little bit and you walk Boone, you get behind, you don't get that close 2-1 pitch that he thought was a strike.
1-1 the count. As we look again at Seaver, Tom would have pitched game 4 had he been healthy, but right now it's Al Nipper who is penciled in. And again, as we mentioned earlier, John McNamara feeling if they trail in the series, he could come back with Clemens on 3 days rest.
That's really something that Roger hasn't done all year. The only time he pitched with 3 days rest is after he threw 25 pitches in the All-Star game. So you look at Tom Seaver's record, 7-13 on the year, 5-7 with the Red Sox, and you said, well, he really isn't that much better than Nipper, who was 10-12 with a 5.83 ERA, but I think there's a big difference. I'd much rather have Seaver, a guy that you saw that won over 300 games going out for you.
2 balls, 2 strikes, and they're getting the K's ready in the stands.
Well, Gary Pettis, you talked earlier about the fact they've had 9 different leadoff batters. This is the guy they'd like to have lead off, but he struck out 125 times over the course of the season.
3-2. And so Boone, with no speed, will be off and moving with the pitch from first base. And Clemens walks Pettis. So 2 strikeouts and then 2 walks here in the second inning, and Jones is the batter. And that's uncharacteristic for Clemens. I think most of you know that Clemens set the major league record in April when he struck out 20 Mariners in a 9-inning game. The most amazing aspect I felt of that performance was the fact he did not walk a man. What a line in the paper the next day. 9 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run, a home run by Gorman Thomas, no walks, and 20 strikeouts. 1-0 the count on Jones, who struck out in the first. There can be no better pitching coach to talk about control. Bill Fisher holds the major league record with 84 1/3 consecutive innings without yielding a walk. And there's Fish trotting off. And when you break that down, that's over 9 9-inning games without giving up a walk.
Chris, you can correct me if you're a little bit older than I am. I wasn't around when he pitched. I don't think he threw 98 miles per hour. But what he's telling them, let's land on your toe, let's get your body through, and let's get the ball down in the strike zone. That's exactly what he did. You know, Earl Weaver used to come out, I'd throw 3 high fastballs, and he said, just bounce one. Show me you're trying to throw the ball low. And I'd say, isn't that a ball too? Earl would look at me with a bewildered look and then run back into the dugout.
You drove him into retirement again, didn't you?
I don't think I had anything to do with it. I think that last place finish might have had something to do with it. Very frustrating year for the people in Baltimore. Players, fans, and ex-Orioles.
Here's the 1-1 to Jones, who takes just outside, and the count is 2-1. So Clemens, in the first inning, gave up the double to Joyner. He walked Jackson and DeCense with a 410-foot out. And now here in the second, after striking out Wilfong and Schofield, he's walked Boone and Pettis. And he's 2-1 on Rupert Jones, who rips one into center field for a base hit. Boone lumbers around third, and Armis's throw is cut off as he throws toward third, and the Angels take the lead. So Boone running with 2 out. Armis with a decent arm, and when the ball was hit, it looked like he might have a chance, but the grass slowed it down, and he opted to go to third.
You would think in retrospect that he would have had a better chance. As you take another look, a 2-1 fastball right in the middle of the plate. Jones lines it up the middle. Pettis, as we said, exceptional speed. You got to think you don't have a play at third, but Tony chooses to go to third. And right there, Spike Owens cuts off the ball. I think the play would have been at home plate.
You'd have had a better chance just looking at it with a naked eye. I think Boone would have beaten the throw anyway. Armas perhaps even outsmarting himself. Not a bad idea with a different runner perhaps going toward third, but not Pettis. Joyner takes a strike. What Armas has in mind there is that if he gets the man at third before Boone crosses the plate, the run would not have counted. So the Angels on top. Joyner, who doubled his first trip, swings late, and it's 0-2. And it's fouled away again. So the next pitch will be number 50. And that becomes not only significant in terms of what's happening here tonight, but if Clemens, let's say, does go all the way and throws 120 to 135 pitches tonight, then McNamara has to think about another thing if he wants to bring him back on 3 days rest Saturday. And it's 2-2.
Also, when you look at the 24 wins, only 10 complete games. So in 14 of those wins, that's assuming that he did get complete games in the other 10. Somebody else has to come in.
Down the line in left field and hooking away from Rice and in for a base hit, and that will score Pettis. Jones stops at third. Joyner has a pair of doubles, and the Angels lead 2-0 in the second inning. So Joyner has pulled the double and now sliced one.
Well, you don't hit 290 if you can't go the other way, and there's a ball on the outside part of the plate, just slices it into the corner. Pettis scores easy. Rupert Jones, who has above average speed, pulls up. Rice playing the carom very well.
Downing.
And Brian Downing comes to the plate. Downing, broken bat line out in the first inning. Gary Pettis, who has scored the second run, and all of the damage here with 2 down. Remember, the inning started, he blew Wilfong away, had Schofield overmatched, but then the 2 walks and the single and the double, and Downing looks at the strike. And Sammy Stewart, the former Oriole, is up and throwing in the Boston pen. Here's the 2-2 pitch, and that's high. And first base open, and Reggie Jackson on deck. 3-2 the count. Jones at third, and Joyner at second. Ripped to left field, into the gap, and that's in there for extra bases. 2 more runs score. And Fenway will become very quiet as the Angels lead 4-0. A wall single for Downing, and 5 consecutive Angels have reached.
Once again, a fastball in the middle of the plate to a fastball hitter. Talked about the general scouting report on the Angels. They love the fastball. Roger Clemens has been behind all night. Good velocity, bad location. A lot of times that ends up in mucho runs, and we've seen 4. Earned run average of 2.48 for the entire year. So you're seeing something that's very uncharacteristic.
Reggie Jackson.
And on a couple of occasions in this inning, Clemens a strike away from getting out of it as the inning began with a pair of strikeouts, but 2 walks, 3 hits. 4-0 California, and Jackson, who walked, at the plate. One thing about Jackson, he never has a boring at-bat. When he strikes out, there's drama.
I used to always thought there was a lot of drama when I used to strike him out. In fact, Reggie got him for my 2000 strikeout. You say that's quite an honor, but he did it so often, I'm not really sure if it's that much of an achievement. Well, Reggie said after early in the season, taking a little bit off his swing, trying to go the other way, he said you just can't, after 19 years using a 44 Magnum, start hitting with a 22. So we've seen the home run swing the last couple of weeks. He's hit the ball with authority. And that's what he's trying to do here.
And he's trying to prove something, too, because the Angels indicated to him on the 11th of August that they were not going to re-sign him. And Reggie felt one of the reasons was that the front office felt that he didn't have the power he once possessed and was a different type of hitter. And so Reggie, feeling he had a little something to prove, cranked it up and went on a tear in September, including a 3-home run night against Kansas City. Down he goes. So he strikes out the side, but it's an agonizing inning for the Red Sox. At 4-0 California. At Fenway Park, Al Michaels with Jim Palmer. And the Angels have just erupted for 4, all with 2 out. The walks to Boone and Pettis. Jones with a base hit. Joyner with a double, and then Downing a 2-run single. Tomorrow, Keith Jackson and Tim McCarver at the Astrodome in Houston in Game 1 of the National League Championship Series coming up. Dwight Gooden on the mound against Mike Scott at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Game 1.
Number 14.
Our Game 2 here tomorrow afternoon. And the balance of this series, off day Thursday, weekend in Anaheim, night games Friday and Saturday, and a day game on Sunday, Game 5 if necessary. And then 6 and 7 if necessary back here next Tuesday and Wednesday. Again, if you have forgotten and joined us late, the playoffs are 4 out of 7. They went that way last year after the 3 out of 5 format had prevailed since '69. Jim Rice fouls it away, 0-1. Rice, Baylor, and Evans in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Little half-swing chopper, and Witt throws him out. 1 away.
First looking at Mike Witt, 18 and 10 on the year. If you look at Roger Clemens' year, an outstanding year, 24 and 4. The Red Sox averaged almost 6 runs a game for him. Mike Witt, on the other hand, 5 out of his 10 losses, the Angels averaged 2 or less runs. 24 out of his 34 starts gave up 3 runs or less. So you're looking at one of the outstanding pitchers in the American League, 15-game winner the last 2 years. As Bob Boone said, has matured. Gene Mauch said one of the best curveballs he's ever seen, and we're talking about a guy that's been in baseball for 25 years.
2 balls, no strikes on Baylor. Don coming over late in spring training in the straight-up deal with the Yankees. The exchange of designated hitters with Mike Easler going to New York and Mike at 301. And even though Baylor was down in the 230s, there is no way the Red Sox would rescind that deal. They feel that Baylor, among others, made the difference. Interesting there, isn't it? Most regular season games not having played in a series, and there's Baylor and there's Jose Cruz leading it. And Cruz in action tomorrow in Game 1 of the National League, as Baylor pops it in the air, and Joyner is there underneath it. 2 gone here in the 2nd inning. And we'll take a look at Dwight Evans.
If you think a little bit, you go 2-0 on Don Baylor. You're looking for a fastball. He throws you a great curveball. Then you say, well, he'll probably throw me another curveball, and he pops you up on a fastball. Just shows you the capabilities that Mike Witt has.
Dwight Evans, who was here in 1975, the last time the Red Sox were involved in postseason play. From that club, only Rice and Evans are still here. And if you'll recall, Rice fractured his wrist in September of '75 and didn't get to play in postseason play. Wide of third, one-handed by the sensei, and Evans is gone. So are the Sox, and we've played 2, with California leading Boston 4-0. Doug DeSensei to lead off for California as we go to the third, and the veteran third baseman characterizes this team.
I think it's a group of what I would call the true classic professionals. You know, we've been written off by a lot of different people, but I think what they fail to realize is what's inside of these ball players here, what we've been able to accomplish and why. And it's because they go about their job in an extreme professional manner, and I think professionalism to me would be the key. I think that the veterans here have been able to show the younger players how you go about it and the good theory of winning, and they've been able to be astute enough to watch and you know, and do right what's expected of them, and the team has melded together extremely well.
Doug DeSensei, at the age of 36, came up with the Orioles, and he was the man who succeeded Brooks Robinson at third base and stayed there through the 81 season. And he was one of the leaders amongst the players in the strike-torn year, 81, and the following year, with all the acrimony and all, on to California. Meanwhile, Clemens goes to work here and starts DeSensei with a strike as we begin the third.
From that graphic, you get an idea. It doesn't matter sometimes how hard you throw, it's where you put the ball, and Roger has been in the middle of the plate all night.
Spike Owen backhands, throws, and Buckner stays on the bag for the out. One away. Spike Owen helping to solidify the Boston infield. He came over along with the outfielder Dave Henderson in that deal in August with Seattle. And when George Steinbrenner found out about it, that's when George got angry and said my front office was asleep when he was queried as to why the Yankees didn't wind up with Owen.
Well, not to mention Dave Henderson, of course, the one weakness the Red Sox had all year was really bench strength, especially if you talked about outfield bench strength. And when they got Dave Henderson, they added the guy that could also hit. Defensive replacement you most likely will see for Tony Armas late in the ballgame. But as you said, Spike Owen solidified the infield. Ray Quiones, a good-looking young shortstop, will probably still be a good shortstop 8-9 years from now. But for this year, Owens was the man, and Lou Borman went out and got him.
1-2, and the other thing Borman did here was bring Seaver in, and even though Tom had a losing record, again, the type of guy that makes a big difference in areas other than statistics. Again, it is Owen one-handing, and the high throw this time, and sure enough, you sing his praises, and he commits an error.
They led all the American League shortstops in total chances, and they're playing up the middle. Has to go to his right. Wilfon just slaps the ball to the left side. It almost looks like, as I said, the infield's very fast. He underestimates the speed of Wilfon. Reads Bobby Brown's name on the ball. We're talking about the American League president. Takes too much time to get rid of it. He just comes up firing. He's got him.
Even read the MD next to Brown's name.
Exactly right.
Schofield.
Dick Schofield is the hitter. The Red Sox, despite not playing particularly well after they had clinched, had been playing brilliant defensively at the end of the regular season. They had not made an error in their last 10 games. And now the error on Owen. So Wilfong at first, one down, third inning, 4-0 California. And 0-1 the count on Schofield, who struck out in the second. 0-2. Schofield, the son of former major leaguer Dick Ducky Schofield, who played 19 years. And it was Schofield Jr. with one of the biggest hits of the season. He hit that grand slam against Detroit in August to cap an 8-run ninth inning and give the Angels a wild victory against the Tigers. In one of those boyhood dream come true games where you come up with the bases loaded, down by 3, bottom of the ninth, 2 strikes, and out she goes. So Clemens has Schofield's number, and that's the second time Dick's gone down, and Clemens has struck out 5.
Well, last time the high fastball, look at this slider, right on the corner, right where you want to throw it. Schofield out on his front foot. Can't quite reach it. But it's come a long way, and they have to give a lot of credit to Gene Mauch. Hit 193 2 years ago, or really 3 years ago. Last year about 219. This year, the first shortstop since Jim Fregosi way back to 1970 to hit in double fingers with home runs. I think Fregosi hit 20. So good defensive and good with the bat.
High for a ball, and the count 1-0. And one of the young Angels, and that's important.
Again, a little bit of speed, 23 stolen bases. Gene Mauch, because we're not looking at Dick Schofield right now. We're looking at one of the older Angels, Bob Boone. Started off the rally with a walk.
And he grounds that one into center field for a base hit. And so the Angels again with runners at first and second. They had 2 on in the first, and remember that inning ended when the Sensei flied out to the wall in center. And then they scored 4 times in the second, and now 2 on and 2 out in the third.
That base hit just slapped up the middle. Bob Boone, not a power hitter. 8 home runs on the year, just hits the ball where it's pitched. Doesn't try to pull it. Try to pull that ball. It's a ground ball to shortstop.
Gary Pettis drew a walk in the second inning. And that one is grounded by Buckner and finds its way into right field for a base hit. The throw is going to third, and not in time there as another run scores. So Wilfong scores the unearned run, and it's 5-0 Angels on a soft single by Pettis.
You said the ball right off his fist. You see Buckner playing behind Bob Boone, still can't get to it. Wilfong's going to score easy. Evans knows who the slowest runner is, tries to throw Bob Boone out. Again, we've seen 2 instances that Bob Boone, at an advanced age, still running well, especially for a catcher. Because that's all part of knowing the game, and that's what Bob Boone knows so well. He knows the ball's not hit hard. Doesn't really matter if Evans can throw as well as he can. You're going to take the extra base.
Now with Jones at the plate and Pettis at first base. Pettis with 50 steals, by far the most on either team. And it's popped up a mile high. Owen, whose error cost Boston a run, gets him to retire the side. And at the end of 2.5, it's California 5 and Boston nothing. Or the annual shootout in Dallas between Oklahoma and Texas. Coverage beginning at 3 Eastern time. And speaking of Saturday, that man will be in action. Don Sutton, who reached the 300 victory mark earlier this year in Anaheim, slated to work in Game 4.
First time in it since 1928 over Cleveland Alexander. A 300-game winner to appear in a postseason game. Of course, they didn't have the playoffs back then.
Gedman, it's a fly ball to center field that Pettis corrals. 1 away. Doug Flutie is here tonight, so for those of you who thought he was in Green Bay or Chicago or somewhere trying out, here's an exclusive for you. Trying to work out a deal with the Rams. Rams looking for a higher draft choice than some clubs are willing to spend for the rights to Flutie. Armish is at the plate, and he takes a strike. Half swing bouncer to first, just foul. And Wally Joyner with some acrobatics, but all for naught.
You get that kind of defensive hack from Tony Armas, not a normal swing when you get a borderline pitch called a strike. Kind of sometimes makes you wonder where the strike zone is. But as you said, it's really a special talent in catching the ball, and Billy Buckner comes to mind. Been known to complain before the game that Boone's going to cheat. He's going to get an extra 2 or 3 inches of the outside corner. Ball's down in the strike zone, and again, it's a matter of letting the umpires see the ball, not really snatching the ball away from the strike zone, letting the ball come to you as a catcher. Boone does it so well. Rather smart thing he did. Came up as a third baseman in the Philly organization, saw that Mike Schmidt was around and became a catcher.
Grounded to third, slowly, fair ball, long throw by DeCinces. Doug still with a good arm. And there are 2 down, and the Red Sox are still without a hit. And it will bring up Owen.
Number 5.
Doug DeCinces.
By going.
He played for the Angels in '82 in the League Championship Series, and he has a World Series ring, even though it's a ring for the club on the other end in 1979 when he played with Baltimore against the Pirates. And yes, they do give World Series rings to the losers. Not quite as many carats, however. Half swing strike in the count of 1-1. Spike Owen, Spike D. Owen, and that is his real first name, not a nickname, named after his mother's maiden name. Her name is Margie Spikes. He has a brother, Dave, who played with the Cubs and then was traded to the Giants. And right now, Dave is in the Texas Ranger system and on their 40-man roster, having played this year at Oklahoma City. 2-1. Witt, 2-4 lifetime against the Red Sox, but he has pitched rather well against them.
He's 1-2 this year with an ERA right around 266, somewhere in there. Again, we've talked about the lack of support. Tonight's not that case. 5 runs. He must get a nosebleed out there.
I mean, the Angels were, I don't want to say concerned, but thinking about Witt's last few outings, which have not been particularly scintillating, especially his last 2. Gave up a grand slam homer to Pete Incaviglia to cost them a game at Anaheim, and did not look sharp in his last outing at Texas last week. But he's sharp tonight. Owen is gone. So are the Sox. We'll go to the 4th. 5-0 California. He's, of course, from the American League this season. Joyner and Canseco and Snyder. Well, if Wally Joyner had a vote, he'd vote for.
Oh, it's hard to say. It's just a matter of who you want to go with. Jose Canseco's had a good year. He's had a lot of home runs. He leads the rookies in RBIs. Wally Joyner has helped the California Angels win the Western Division title. Has got 100 RBIs also. I'd vote for myself just because I'd want Wally Joyner to win.
Boy, you asked some tough questions.
Honesty is always the best policy, huh?
Wally Joyner.
Again, they only ended up hitting 290, and that's the second double. The first one was a line drive down the right field line. Look at Gary Pettis picking up the bat after he scored. That's one of the reasons he's always going to be a good hitter. Started out the year with a bang, 20 home runs the first half, only 2 the second half, really none since August. Had an injury, stopped having to lift weights.
Bounces this one down to first, and Buckner stays with it, shovels over to Clemens for the out, 1 away.
But he has had a marvelous year, and again, this is another illustration of, I guess, what Mike Ford is thinking. If you can get rid of a guy that had 3,000 hits and by the name of Rod Carew, hit 280 last year, only 2 home runs, and replace him with a rookie, and you're looking at Wally Joyner as he throws his broken bat down the runway, you can make changes. That's your job as a general manager.
Brian Downing at the plate.
Some people might think that's unfair, but that's the way baseball has always been.
Especially in these economic times. Shallow left field. And Jim Rice for the out. So quickly, 2 down in the 4th inning, and that's exactly what Clemens needs at this point, a quick 1-2-3 inning. As Reggie Jackson comes to the plate. 88 pitches in 3 2/3 innings for Clemens, who on several occasions this year has been under 100. His control is so good, and even with all of the strikeouts, he's pitched a number of games in which he's gone 7, 8, even 9, and been under 100. Reggie with a walk and a strikeout.
So simple, as we said, doesn't matter how hard you throw. What makes Roger Clemens, other than the velocity, because he does not have that much movement. Mike Witt's fastball probably moves more than Clemens, doesn't have the velocity, is where he can throw it. He has not been able to do that in the first 3 innings. This inning, he's moving the ball around quite well.
And he's taking something off it. He's thrown 2 off-speed pitches to Jackson. And he's ahead on the count 0-2. 2 out, bases empty. Reggie backs away. Reggie Jackson, there have been 18 league championship series, and Reggie's been in 11 of them. Fouled away. Oh, 2 pitch is a chopper to the right side, charged by Barrett, and Clemens finally has an elusive 1-2-3 inning. At the end of 3.5 in Fenway, Angels 5, Red Sox nothing. 4 late tuners in. The scoring summary, all that with 2 out in the second. Walk to Boone, walk to Pettis, single by Jones, double by Joyner to make it 2-0, and Downing's base hit to make it 4-0. Then in the 3rd inning, the error by Owen prolonged the inning. Boone with a base hit and Pettis with an RBI single. And California back of Mike Witt, leading the Red Sox 5-0 as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Wade Boggs has been the only Boston base runner. He started things with a walk and then was erased when Barrett hit into a double play in the 1st.
The only mistake Mike Witt's made. As you said, Boggs, 105 walks during the regular season. Another illustration of why he walks so much. Not afraid to take a strike. Wants to see what a pitcher has, not only the first time, but the second time and the 3rd time.
2-0. In there, 2-1. Black to left field, but right on a line to Downing, who was fighting the lights and makes the play. 1 away.
Well, Downing once went 244 consecutive games without an error. Catches just about everything he gets to. Here's a curveball up in the strike zone. Boggs doesn't try to pull it, but overhead view of a ball right in his tracks. Brian Downing gets underneath the light standard and makes the catch.
So 1 out and Barrett at the plate. 1-0 the count. If Marty turns around and asks Bob Boone how's Dad, you'll understand. Boone's father, Ray Boone, the former Indian and Tiger, a Red Sox scout, signed Marty Barrett. In the air to right field, and Rupert Jones is there. 2 gone.
It's an interesting thing when you talk to an outfielder about losing a ball in the lights. You see it come off the bat, it gets into the lights, and then you just hope and pray that before it hits you, that you pick it up again. That's what happened to Downing. That ball right there, a routine out to Rupert Jones. And if you look around at the Angel outfield, Downing in center, Pettis won a Gold Glove last year in center field, and Rupert Jones, they have a lot more speed than the Red Sox outfield.
Bill Buckner at the plate. Buckner flying to Pettis in the 1st inning. In the air to shallow center field, and it's Pettis who turns it into a routine out, and it's 4 hitless innings for Mike Witt here in Game 1. 5-0 California. Just to finish up on Bill Buckner talking about his future, possible surgery, and here's the way he thinks of the future.
Big question is having surgery when the season's over and going to get my ankle cleaned out. If that works out okay, then I feel like I got a good 3 years in me, which it'll take for 3,000 hits. And if my ankle's all right, I feel the way that I'm swinging the bat right now, that next year I'm looking for my best year in the major leagues. With the 30 home runs, 130, 40 RBIs, and hit 340. That's my goals for next year.
And a message there to Lou Gorman, the general manager.
Well, I'm sure with Lou, it says, well, I already got him under contract for 1 year. I'm rooting for him.
I'll take it. Al Michaels and Jim Palmer with you as we go to the 5th inning. 5-0, and Roger Clemens starts Doug DeCinces.
You must think he's back in Wrigley Field. Those are Wrigley Field numbers with the wind blowing out most of the year.
DeCinces, Wilfong, and Schofield in there for a strike, and the count 1-1.
We're seeing a little bit different pattern from Roger Clemens. Mostly fastballs early on, didn't have control. It was getting hit hard right there. Breaking ball behind in the count. So Roger is doing what he really has done all year, which is to pitch instead of throw. There's a tendency, I think, if you're going to characterize the first and second and third innings, he was throwing instead of pitching.
And oddly enough, what's really hurt him tonight, the walks. Something that did not hurt him at all during the regular season. The 2-out rally in the second. The building blocks were the walks to Boone and Pettis. And that's ripped into right center for a base hit. So the Sensei is on here in the 5th inning. And we'll take a look at Rob Wilfond.
We talked about that breaking ball behind in the count. That was a high slider, and Doug jumped all over it and just pinged it into right field. It's been an interesting year for the Angels. Al Joyner carried him early, then DeCinces carried him, then Downing got hot. Doug, chronic back problems. He's had back problems in Baltimore when he was a teammate of mine. Then he dove for a ball, or really, I guess, kind of a slight separation of his left shoulder. So, again, one of those free agents that's come along and had a big year. Saw the numbers, 26 home runs.
Meanwhile, Clemens has just thrown pitch number 100, and more activity commencing in the Boston bullpen. As Wilfond bunts foul, and the count 0-2. And Sammy Stewart, who was up in the 2nd and up in the 3rd, is again up in the 5th inning. California on top 5-0. And Mike Witt has not given up a hit through 4.
Gene Mauch just trying to possibly get another runner in scoring position. That's why we saw the bunt. There you bring the infielders in after you fake the bunt. Take a look at Gene and try to set up a situation where Wilfond can hit the ball by him. He's a pretty, I guess, pragmatic type of manager. He knows he has a guy pitching a no-hitter. You don't have to get him a lot of runs. Haven't had all year, so let's add one if you can.
Soft fly to center field, and Tony Armas is there for the catch. So the Sensei remains at first with 1 down, and it'll bring up Dick Schofield. Clemens probably getting very close to the point where John McNamara has to think about removing him one way or another because of the number of pitches and because of the prospect of being behind after 3 and wanting to come back with Clemens in Game 4 Saturday. Schofield at the plate, fouled away again. To go to the bullpen early in Fenway is something that McNamara didn't want to do, but now Clemens getting into the middle innings, still down 5-0.
I think also what he wants to do is not overuse him, as you pointed out, but also allow Roger to build his confidence back up. And the first 3 innings are not exactly what you would call confidence boosters. Hit pretty hard, didn't have command of any of his pitches. Seems like, as I said, he is pitching a little bit more than throwing right now.
The 0-2 pitch is outside, 1-2 the count. John McNamara, oddly the manager of the Angels. Between the reigns of Mauch, Gene was there in '82. Quit. McNamara took over for 2 years, and then John came here. High fly ball to left field, and Jim Rice placing himself underneath, making the catch. 2 down. The Sensei at first with 2 out in the 5th inning, and Bob Boone the batter. Little chopper to short, and Owen throws to first, and the side is retired. No runs, a lead on a single by the Sensei, and after 4.5, still 5-0 Angels. Bottom of the 5th inning, crowd trying to get something started for the Red Sox as Jim Rice leads off. Mike Witt has not given up a hit through 4, and Rice fouls it away. Mike Witt not only has a no-hitter to his credit, he pitched a perfect game on the last day of the 1984 season, California at Texas. One of only 13 perfect games.
You don't want to do it on the last day of the season.
1-1. He won the game 1-0. He struck out 10. Terrible timing. It might have been the most anonymous perfect game ever. It's the worst day to possibly pitch one for a number of reasons. As Rice grounds it on a hot backhanded by Schofield, and he gets him, and Baylor comes to the plate. Think about it. The next day in the paper, it's the third weekend of the NFL season.
25.
The baseball season is over. It was a meaningless game. Both teams were out of the race. And you got the playoffs coming up. So if ever a perfect game is agate type, that's the day.
This will help you pitch a perfect game. Good infield defense. We talked about the outfield defense. Dick Schofield to his right. You see a pop-up from Donnie Baylor.
And Boone will have a play and makes the catch. 2 down.
This is one of those ballparks, Al, that even though they've put an upper deck here, you never can give up on a foul ball. The wind usually blows the balls back into play. Boone stayed with it, easy out.
Dwight Evans.
Another very important thing about Mike Witt yesterday, his wife Lisa, a baby boy, Justin, already had a daughter, so I'm sure he's very happy about that. He's happy about the way the game's going. He already had a daughter, now he has a son.
And a 5-0 lead with 2 out and the bases empty in the bottom of the 5th inning. Dwight Evans grounded out in the 2nd. The Red Sox with just 1 base runner. Wade Boggs led off with a walk in the 1st. And Barrett hit into a double play. There has never, by the way, been a no-hitter in the league championship series and in the World Series. There's only been one, and that was Don Larson's perfect game in '56. Year, of course, there were 2 down the stretch, one of them against the Angels by Joe Cowley of the White Sox. The other was Mike Scott's dramatic no-hitter and the clincher for Houston against San Francisco. One-two pitch is a half swing, strike 3, and Witt with a no-hitter through 5. And we go to the 6th, California 5, and Boston nothing. Game 2 in this series coming up tomorrow, and it's a day game, so it's 2 Eastern, or it's a 3 o'clock, 3 Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, and noon Pacific time tomorrow. Kirk McCaskill taking on Bruce Hurst, and then at 8 Eastern time tomorrow night, Keith Jackson and Tim McCarver will be in the Astrodome as the Mets take on the Astros in Game 1. Dwight Gooden and Mike Scott. Here's our man Jack Cronin, who's worked in locales far flung, and that's about the furthest flung. Jack, who handles our reverse angle camera on Monday Night Football, draws all of the prime assignments, doesn't he? 6th inning as Pettis swings and misses, and the count 0-1. Pettis, Jones, and Joyner. 5-0 California. And the drama right now in this one centered around Mike Witt, who has not given up a hit. 1 ball, 1 strike the count. Roger Clemens started the season, you'll recall, 14-0. And then he finished the season winning his last 7 decisions. 2-1. And remarkable, too, Jim, in the sense that he was a question mark because of the surgery he underwent after the '85 campaign.
Really 9 starts into '85. He saw a fly ball lifted out to left field. Rice under it for the first out. If you go back to last year, after 9 starts, went down. James Andrews, Dr. James Andrews, arthroscopic surgery to remove some cartilage around the rotator cuff, and had been doing an exercise program. Look at tonight's total pitches at 117, and they really did not know what to expect. His first 3 starts this spring got shelled, was afraid to throw the ball. Bill Fisher went out and said, you know, you're throwing a lot of breaking balls. You realized how well you're throwing the ball? He said, no. He said, what am I throwing, 80, 85, 86? He said, over 90. rest has been history.
Rupert Jones, boy, the fates and fortunes of baseball. Somebody like Rupert Jones, released by San Diego in '73, went back to the minor leagues in '84, and winds up in the World Series that year, in there for a strike. And the count 2-1. So he got a World Series ring with the Tigers in '84. Then over to California. I think I said released in '73. It was '83 when he was released by San Diego. And a chance perhaps for a second World Series ring in 3 years as Bill Buckner makes the play on the system. And there are 2 down here in the 6th inning.
He contributed in 1984, came up at middle of the season for the Tigers, hit 12 home runs, and he's done the same thing for the Angels.
21, Wally Joyner.
Again, one of those role players that can do a lot for you. Good defensive outfielder, can hit some home runs, 17, steal the base. Again, go back to your question about Wally Joyner. Have they pitched him differently? Of course. Anytime a guy hits 20 home runs the first half of the season, you make adjustments. Right there you saw one, a little soft changeup.
And the shoulder, I think, is coming into play, too. He's not swinging as freely as he did early on. Evans takes care of Joyner, and Clemens has things in gear now. That's 6 straight and 10 of the last 11, but it's 5-0 Angels. Mike Witt with a no-hitter as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. There it is. The longest that pitchers have gone, and oddly, Mike Cuellar and Ross Grimsley combined to go 6 in the 3rd innings to Baltimore in 1974 against Oakland. So they went into the 7th combined as Gedman rips one foul here in the bottom of the 6th, 0-1. In that Cuellar-Grimsley game, if you're wondering why Cuellar came out, he walked 9 men in 4 2/3 innings that day. The A's got 1 hit in the game, a base hit by Reggie Jackson, and beat Baltimore. Fouled away, and the count 0-2. And you, Jim Palmer, were there.
Another one of those playoffs where I pinch ran.
That's right, like '83, huh?
Well, they had Raleigh fingers coming in. I was on first base. Baylor was up, and he struck him out.
And you ran for Boop Powell.
I should hope so.
He should hope so. 0-2 pitch is high, and the count 1-2.
The ironic thing, you never really know that if the guy's going to pitch a no-hitter. I'm sure Mike Witt would settle for a win, getting a lot of runs, but John McNamara says that every time that Roger Clemens goes out to the mound, he thinks he's capable of pitching a no-hitter.
To center field, and it's Pettis. One away.
But you pointed out last inning that Witt pitched the perfect game in 1984. Roger Clemens has not pitched a no-hitter since Little League, not in high school, not in college baseball. So, and here you're looking at a guy that is very underrated. And as I said, if the Angels supported him as well as the Red Sox as far as offensive support, would have won many more than 18 games.
Tony Armas takes outside, ball 1. 5 runs, 7 hits, and no errors for the Angels. No runs, no hits, and 1 error for the Red Sox. Bottom of the 6th inning. In the air to right field, and moving over is Jones, and he gets there. So 2 down. And for Mike Witt now, that is 16 in a row as Owen comes to the plate. Again, Boggs walked in the 1st inning. Then Barrett tried to bunt, fouled one away, swung away, hit into a double play. Buckner fly to center, and he's been perfect since.
Been perfect by getting both the fastball and the curveball over, something that Roger Clemens was unable to do in the first 3 innings.
2 gone, bases empty. Owen, the switch hitter, taking low. We mentioned no one has thrown a no-hitter in LCS play. Nobody's even thrown a 1-hitter. There have been 3 2-hitters, and oddly, Ross Grimsley threw one himself. Grimsley, who was involved with Cuellar in that combined effort we alluded to earlier, threw a 2-hit game against Pittsburgh in 1972 in the 4th game of the playoffs. Gave up a run in that game, as I recall. Won the game, sent it to 5, and then the Reds beat the Pirates in the 5th. Vida Blue pitched one in '74 for Oakland, and John Matlack pitched one for the Mets against the Reds in '73. All 2 hitters.
I believe I lost that one to Vida Blue, 1-0. Sal Bando at the plate. I took 3-2, throw him a fastball. He homered. I said, we'll get more than 1 run. Nope. We lost 1-0.
Meanwhile, 3-1 now to Owen, and he takes outside. And so Witt, of all things, walks Owen. Stephen King, the author, and a rabid Red Sox fan. No mystery to this one, though, tonight. 5-0 California. Wade Boggs has walked and flied out. Strike. Chopper, tough play for the Sensei, but he has no throw. And that's the way it's broken up.
Interesting thought. Boggs says he does not like to hit on turf because he doesn't hit very many high choppers. Hits one tonight. Looking at the first base hit of the ball game for the Boston Red Sox. Sensei with a nice play, but can't make the throw. The reason he doesn't make the throw is because he's got a 5-run lead. Probably no chance to get Boggs, even though he has the bad hamstring at first.
So that drama has ended, and now we'll see if the Red Sox can get back in the game. As Barrett at the plate takes a strike. Marty has hit into a double play and flying to right. 1-2 to Barrett. His line to right field. Jones comes in. That's a base hit. Owen rounds third. On his way home to score. 5-1.
Two-strike fastball up and away, and Marty Barrett's had such a great year. Good high fastball hitter. He does it again. Cooper Jones, with an attempted throw at home, has no chance to get a speedy strike going, who scores a first run.
And Fenway Park has come alive. It's 5-1 with 2 on and 2 out in the bottom of the 6th inning, and Buckner is the batter. He's priced wide to center. Buckner, a great second half. Wound up with 102 RBIs. Got the corner.
There's a frustration we talked about earlier. Bob Boone maybe getting an inch or 2 off the corner just by framing it. He lets Larry Barnett have a look at it. Falls a couple of inches outside. Buckner knows that. Boone probably knows it.
Buckner thought it got the corner of Lansdowne and Van Ness.
The reason that a hitter will argue, he knows that you can't afford to give a guy with Mike Witt's stuff an extra strike or 2.
In the air to shallow left field, and Downing comes in, and that's the end of that rally. So the no-hitter is gone, and the shutout is gone as well. But at the end of 6, it's California 5 and Boston 1. So the Angels on top by a score of 5-1, and what a lift it would be for California, not only to come into Boston, take a 1-0 lead, but beat Roger Clemens in the process, and knowing that Tom Seaver is unavailable to Boston.
Well, that's certainly the case. Of course, tomorrow, Bruce Hurst, as you said, 5 extraordinary performances in September, so it's not going to be easy, but I think they would have settled for a split if they could win the night. Then they're looking to win 2. So
Ryan Downing, left fielder. Downing.
The visiting team normally comes in, and the philosophy is you're happy if you can split, because then it's turned around and more games to be played in your park over the balance of the series than in the other. Seventh inning is Downing. Stands in. Downing, Jackson, and DeSensei. With Roger Clemens, who has settled down. He has retired 6 in a row, and he has set down 10 of the last 11. And the count is 1-1.
Really, you can almost go back to one pitch. You go back to the beginning, really, in the second inning. Bob Boone up a 2-1 fastball on the outside part of the plate. Clemens thought it was a strike.
And Downing gets a fly ball to center. That's Armas, and that's the first out.
Larry Barnett called it a ball. The count goes to 3-1. Then you have a walk. Then you have another walk. It leads to a 4-run inning. Not using that as an excuse.
Reggie Jackson.
But one pitch sometimes can make a big difference in a ball game.
And that was the key inning. The second. 2 walks, then 3 straight hits. Meanwhile, here's Jackson. Good April and May and June. And then tailing off, but coming on and exhibiting that power down the stretch. It was a good beginning to the season for not only Roger Clemens, but Reggie Jackson as well. Jackson hit a home run on his first at-bat of the year at Seattle. You know what, though? For both of these teams, there were great omens this year. In the Red Sox opener at Detroit, Dwight Evans hit the first pitch of the season for a home run off Jack Morris. And then the next night in the Angel opener at Seattle, Bobby Grich led off and hit the first pitch of the Angel season for a home run. 1-2.
Well, it has turned out to be good omens. They're both here. Of course, Dwight Evans went 0 for 19 after that leadoff home run. I'm sure he wasn't very pleased about that.
And that was the beginning of a rocky start for Jack Morris this year, but did he come around as he normally does? 21 victories and a free agent. 2-2.
What you call a salary drive.
Jackson popping it in the air in foul territory, and it might drift back into fairground. And still in foul territory, it's boxed. 2 down. So Jackson is gone, and Reggie is 0 for 3 tonight, and DeSensei is the batter.
Again, I think John, as we've said, knows that this is Fenway Park. 5-1 does not mean you're out of the game.
Owen, another high throw, but Buckner is there to haul it down, and Clemens has retired 9 straight. 5-1 California.
IBM presents You Make the Call. With a man on first, the batter bunts the ball toward the right side of the infield. The ball is fielded by the first baseman, but the runner and the second baseman collide. Is the runner out? You make the call. Because the ball was fielded by the first baseman, it is considered obstruction by the second baseman for getting in the runner's way. So if you said the runner was not out, then you made the right call.
5-1 California going to the bottom of the 7th inning. Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Jim Rice, Don Baylor, and Dwight Evans facing Mike Witt in the bottom of the 7th. Jim Rice, who has spent his entire career with the Boston Red Sox, their #1 pick back in 1971 in the draft. High for a ball. He seems to be mellowing a little bit, Jim.
Well, I think Don Baylor has a lot to do with that. Another black athlete here. Don is a very outgoing, gregarious. They talk about the kangaroo court. I think Jim feels much more at ease. Also, I think that from a game standpoint, and he talked about that in the interview earlier in the ball game, he doesn't have to do as much. Doesn't have to try to hit home runs.
Hot foul and drifting back, and Boone reaches in and makes the catch. And that would have been an easier play in the regular season because they built an extra row in front of what would be the normal railing.
25.
Again, getting right to the rail. We talked about how the pop flies will come back because of the low upper deck here. Hangs with it and makes the catch.
So and 1 down and Baylor the batter.
Getting to the railing is the important thing, knowing where it is. Got there in a hurry. Again, I'm going back and take another look at Bob Boone. He's right along the rail, coasts alongside, and then makes the fall in instead of staying 3-4 feet away. Really what Don Baylor has done for
Jim Rice is to get him better pitches to hit. Don's been around, as you said, many ball clubs. The leader plays the game with great intensity. 31 home runs. Has not hit for a high average. We'll look at ball 3 for Mike Witt.
And he's been a steadying influence, and I agree with you totally in Rice's case. Rice, through his career, has been oft times acerbic and truculent, and some will say he still is from time to time as the crowd disputes the call.
Again, take a look. Is the ball high? Enough for a strike? No, it isn't. Again, it's how you catch it. People say that 3-0 pitch is automatic. Most likely is.
And that one is tilted to deep left field with Downing going back and now playing it off the wall. And Baylor on his way to second. And that's a Fenway double. And the crowd now with Dewey Evans' nickname coming up.
Baylor does not hit this ball particularly well, but as we said, with the wind blowing out to left, you don't have to. And right about here, Brian Downing makes a judgment decision. Says he can't catch it. Look where it hits. Not that high on the wall. Might have been able to go to the wall again. Figures maybe I can make the carom and hold him to a single. He wasn't able to do that.
Strike to Evans and the count 0-1.
Really a tough play, but if you know that you have a good center fielder, and Gary Pettis is that, as we said, won a Golden Glove, you know he'll be there backing you up. So it's not going to be more than a double.
Nice play by DeSensei. Baylor remains at second as Doug scoops it up and guns down Evans. 2 away.
The Angels, one of the best defensive teams in the league. Only one team made less errors, and that's Toronto. High breaking ball. Doug knows, just get in front of it, stays in front of it, stays with it. Knows he has plenty of time and makes the play. If you don't stay down, that's a ball that can go right through your legs.
Gedman has twice fly to center. 2 down in the 7th. 1 a dog. One and 1 on Gedman. Gedman, a kid who grew up in Worcester with Baylor at second. So he grew up as a Red Sox fan. Sat in his living room 11 years ago and watched Carlton Fisk hit that dramatic home run to win Game 6 of the World Series. Hit to left field, and Downing comes in and makes the catch. Brian Downing charging in and robbing Gedman and sending the Red Sox down in the 7th inning.
Once again, good defense makes good pitching. The Sensei with a good play. Downing right on his knees, stays right with it for the final out. And a 7-5-1 California over the Red Sox.
Of the 8th inning, Rob Wilfong leads off for the Angels by bouncing one down to Marty Barrett, and one second baseman takes care of the other. One pitch, one down here in the top of the 8th inning. Dick Schofield, the batter. With 2 out in the 2nd inning, Bob Boone and Gary Pettis drew walks. Jones a base hit. Joyner a double. Downing a 2-run single. Then an error by Owen enabled Wilfong to reach, and Pettis drove him in with a base hit. And then Mike Witt had his no-hitter broken up by Boggs' infield hit in the 6th inning, and Marty Barrett scoring Owen with a base hit to right. Schofield struck out twice, fly to left. That's hit to right field and a base hit. He has now thrown 135 pitches, so what McNamara is telling you 2 things. Number 1, Clemens is his guy, and he has put it together. Secondly, there is not a great deal of faith in that bullpen outside of the closer, Schiraldi, and you're certainly not going to bring him in here.
Great. Boone. Catcher Boone.
And Schofield goes. The pitch is inside, and he'll get credit for a stolen base because he was running on the pitch. And so Schofield, who stole 23 during the regular season, picks up the first of the playoffs.
Again, you see Rich Gedman trying to get the ball out of his glove. The most difficult pitch to throw a runner out on is the ball up and in. You have to bring the ball all the way across your body. If you're a catcher, you want the ball up and away. And in one motion, you can throw. And Gedman's exceptional year throwing runners out, 44 of 86. Wasn't able to do it there.
He throws his bat at the ball and loops it into right field for a base hit. Here comes Evans' throw, and that's up the line. And the Angels get another run. Bob Boone and his wife Susie looking on with a base hit into right field. And it's his second hit of the night, and it's 6-1.
As you said, Bob Boone didn't play all year long against Roger Clemens. Jerry Marin, their second catcher, did. Tonight, a walk, 2 base hits. Instrumental in the 6-1 California lead.
On the field. Headed.
2-0 the count. Bullpen busy for Boston with Joe Sambito and Bob Stanley throwing. And the count 2-1. Angels on top 6-1. The Angels in their third league championship series. There is Sambito throwing. And Stanley also with him. In '79, the Angels lost to Baltimore in 4. Then in '82, they had the ignominy of becoming the first team to blow a 2-0 series lead as Pettis whacks it into right for a base hit, and Boone stops at second. And Jones will be the batter. In '82, when the playoffs were best of 5, the Angels led Milwaukee 2-0. McNamara, meanwhile, is coming out to go to the bullpen. And then Milwaukee came from behind to win 3 straight. Angels went down in a blaze of ill glory, and that only happened one other time in the best-of-5 format when the Cubs lost 3 straight to San Diego in the National League in '84. So McNamara ready to go to his bullpen, and he wants the left-hander Sambito to come in to face Jones. So Clemens gets a hand. He leaves with the Angels on top, 6-1. Joe Sambito comes out of the bullpen. He normally comes into situations to face a left-hander, as was the case here. But Gene Mott will bring Rick Burleson into the game to pinch hit for Rupert Jones in the 8th inning, with California on top 6-1. And the Angels with runners at first and second. So Clemens giving up 10 hits tonight, and that's something that happened only once during the regular season. Walked 3, struck out 5, but the most relevant figure at the bottom of the screen, 143 pitches. Meanwhile, right here we have one of the more fascinating matchups you'll ever see. 2 guys facing each other, both of whom look like their careers were over. Sambito and Burleson. And here they are in the playoffs. A strike. Both undergoing surgery, both seemingly washed up, and both battling back and working hard, and here they are in the limelight.
Well, Rick Burleson had conventional rotator cuff surgery. Did not have an at-bat at all last year. Has come back to a fine year. Played a little bit at third, a little bit at shortstop, a little bit at second base. One of the free agents we talked about in the pre-game show. And then Joe Sambito had a ligament transplant where they take the ligament out of your right wrist and transplant it into your left elbow. Used to be extremely hard throwing left-handed reliever for Houston. Last year was with the Mets. Didn't think that they fit in his plans, and he has done a good job as a spot reliever. Left-hander here and there.
And Burleson coming back to Fenway Park, pops to Buckner. Rick, who was the Red Sox shortstop on the 1975 American League champions. The longtime Boston shortstop coming back, and he's the second out here in the 8th inning.
Really what you do if you're John McNamara by bringing in Sambito. You figure they'll make a defensive change. Most likely George Hendrick will go to right field to play for Rupert Jones. Rupert Jones probably has an edge defensively there. So you lessen the defensive capabilities of the Red Sox, and you also have the left-handed matchup right here, Wally Joyner versus Sambito. Exactly what you want if you're John McNamara.
You could also go to Devon White. The pitch outside to Joyner, and the count 1-0, the rookie outfielder. Wally Joyner of Wally World, and this is Joyner Leslie. Former gymnast at Brigham Young University.
Great camera presence.
Yep. Blocked by Gidman. And the count 2-0. There's Boone at second. Pettis at first. And Boone has to worry about Pettis passing him on the base paths. 2-2 pitch. Or the 2-1 pitch is on the outside corner. 3-1 to him. Got the corner, 3-2. So 3-2, 2 down, and the runners will be going. Boone from second, Pettis from first.
Again, early in the year, I think a grand slam home run off Dave Righetti. So, take a look at that graphic. More or less a dare graphic. We dare you to hit one, Wally.
And it's fouled away. 3-2 pitch is inside, so they're loaded up for Brian Downing. And Stanley is in the bullpen. And Mama Joyner and all of the Angel wives having a good time. John McNamara not having a very good time as he trudges to the mound and goes to the bullpen. So the Angels on top 6-1 with the bases loaded, and we'll be back. Out of the bullpen for Boston, and now relegated to a setup man for the closer Calvin Schiraldi. And at the moment, well, you'd refer to him in the regular season as a mop-up man here, but in the playoffs it wouldn't be that quite severe. 6-1 California, bases loaded, and Brian Downing takes a strike. And Stanley, more than any other, has incurred the wrath of the Red Sox fans this season.
Well, he certainly has. Look at the $1 million salary. Last year, injury to his index finger with a ganglion, had to have an operation. We talked about Schiraldi being an overpowering strikeout pitcher. Bob Stanley has, in the past, 33 saves, 22 saves. This year, 16, but he's a sinker baller. Has to get the ball down about the knees.
And that one's down, but into left field for a base hit. Boone scores. Here comes Rice's throw to Gedman, not in time to get Pettis. And 2 more are in, and it's 8-1. And it's another Stanley salute.
I don't know if we'll have a chance to see that. We'll see it from the left field camera, but it's a belt-high slider. That's not where he can pitch. He has to be around the knees, as I said. Right here, we talked about the Angel speed. Rice comes up. 1.5 steps, perfect throw. Pettis beats the plate at the plate. No substitute for speed. Perfect example of it right there. Gives you an extra run.
Joyner at second, and Downing at first, and Reggie Jackson, who's had a silent night, walked, struck out, grounded to second, foul to third. Strike. 0-1. Joyner and Downing. Reggie rips one on a hop to Buckner, who goes to Owen for the force at second. And Downing is the final out of the 8th. But the Angels get 2 more and lead the Sox 8-1. Tony Armas leads off. Bottom of the 8th inning. Outside for a ball. 1-0. Armas, Owen, and Boggs against Mike Witt, who had a no-hitter through 5 2/3. And right now has a 7-run lead in the bottom of the 8th. Fly ball to shallow left center field. And it's Downing coming in. 1 away. The thing about Witt right now, though, it's a two-edged sword. He's a little angry because he felt that a lot of people were down on him, writers in particular early on. And so now he's almost shoving it back in their face, so to speak. And yet what happens is after he pitches a game and then goes through a routine in the clubhouse, his actions become the thrust of the story instead of what he did on the mound.
That's a good point, but again, Bob Booth pointed out a very young 26, and you learn from experience. He will mellow, no doubt, and maybe next year they will write more about not the way he acted, but by the way he pitched, which is justly so.
Wilfong, a little acrobatics there, but not in time at first base. Slipping down and unable to make the play, and Owen gets aboard.
Again, you have a tendency to play Spike Owens up the middle. Doug DeCinces talked about how fast this infield is. Again, to get to the ball, he falls down, makes the play, but it's too late.
And it is ruled an infield single for him, with Boggs at the plate. 1-0 the count on Wade. For Wade Boggs, of course, such a bittersweet season, a batting championship, and yet the tragic death of his mother in an automobile accident in June. And for Boggs, you can imagine what it was like, especially in the weeks following that. He had a poor early July. By the time he got everything back together, he faded a bit, but came on at the end and won a batting championship. Strike under extraordinary circumstances.
Also the injury factor. Hurt his ribs, pulling off some boots. Also a bad back, so. Maybe it's not 368 like last year, but another batting title. But what a great run Don Mattingly made.
And it's funny the way we go through periods of talking about the best player in baseball, and it varies from time to time. Remember when Dave Winfield was at San Diego and first came to the Yankees, a good many people thought he was the best all-around player. For a while, Andre Dawson fit that bill in the minds of many. And there's Joyner making a great stop and tagging the bag for the out. And there are 2 down. And now, when you mention Mattingly, it's almost unanimous among those following the game today that Mattingly's the best.
Barrett. What saves this play for Mike Witt is the fact that they're holding Spike Owens on. Everybody's talked about Wally Joyner's outstanding offensive year. Right there saves second and third situation. Nobody on, you would be playing Boggs way off the line, but because of the base runner, Wally, even though he's breaking to his right, enough ability to go back and knock the ball down and make the out himself.
As it's grounded back off the glove of Witt. No play for Wilfong. I think Mike just got a piece of it and slowed it down, but Barrett gets an infield hit. So runners at first and third, and Buckner coming up.
Again, Mike Witt, 6'7", gangly, does not really fall off in the right position. There he does touch the ball, though. That's the difference between a run and a first and third situation. Wilfong, once again, knows he doesn't have a play, so he just holds the ball.
Runners at first and third with 2 down. Angels ahead 8-1, and Buckner the batter. 3 times he's flied out. Who would be your MVP if you had a vote this year?
Sounds like you're asking Wally Joyner who should be Rookie of the Year.
Sure. He gave me
I think the best player in the American League this year was Don Mattingly. The most valuable player probably is Roger Clemens in my estimation, and only because really 14 of his 24 wins came after losing streaks. He was 14-1 in that situation.
That's a whole other debate, of course, as to whether a pitcher should be an MVP, but we're not here to get into that right now.
Well, but again, another explanation might come. Traditionally, is it the most valuable player on a winning team or the most valuable player in the league? Usually it's the most valuable player on a winning team.
Well, I'll second your motion. I'll vote for Clemens tonight, notwithstanding. Go to the ninth. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Ninth inning at Fenway Park. Doug DeCince, the batter, 1-0. So game 2 coming up mañana. Our producer Chuck Howard and the old warhorse Chet Forty, our director, and the gang. And we will be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern time for the second game. Shattered bat hit down to short, and Owen over to first for the out. One away, and Wilfong is the batter. Wilfong is 0 for 4 tonight. But he reached on an error in the third inning. Came around to score California's 5th run. Bob Stanley mopping up in the 9th. 1-0. Barrett to Buckner. 2 down, and Schofield coming up. 2-2 the count. And the Angel wives.
Patty Sutton in the foreground.
Very much reflecting the entire mood. The center and Armas is there. And the Angels are gone in order. So we'll move to the bottom of the 9th in game 1. California 8 and the Red Sox 1.
Left fielder Rice.
Jim Rice in the bottom of the 9th inning. Rice, Baylor, and Evans against Mike Witt, the man of the moment for California. Mike Witt, who was born in Fullerton in Southern California, lives in Santa Ana, and went to Servite High School, which is a few stoplights away from Anaheim Stadium. 0-2.
Well, we've seen them all tonight. Great curveball, great fastball, and they're a great changeup. And when I look at Mike Witt, we talked about it last inning. Everybody expected him to be better than he's been able to be. He's going to even be better. He's coming up with an excellent changeup. Much more command of his fastball, and that's happened during the '86 season. 9-7 the first half, 9-3 the second half. Far superior pitcher the second half of the season. And that's part of the maturation.
Baylor.
That's his 3rd strikeout, so 1 away, and Baylor is the batter. With California going with a 4-man rotation, we would next see Witt in the 5th game, if that's necessary. Fly to right. Devon White makes the catch, and there are 2 down. And Evans is the batter. Evans,
number 24,
0 for 3.
Evans.
Well, one
Right
thing in the
fielder,
Red Sox favor right now, when it used to be a best-of-5, boy, you were really down after that first loss. That was almost backs to the wall time. It's a little more comfortable in a best-of-7.
Just a little.
Just a tad. But it gets real hot again when you're down 0-2. But last year, the Royals were down 0-2, and the Royals were down 1-3 to Toronto and won it. And the Cardinals were down 0-2 to the Dodgers last year and won it. Our thanks, Alan Roth up here, as usual, a great job, and to Steve Hurt for the graphics. And we'll be with you again tomorrow at 3 Eastern as the Angels celebrate a victory made official on the catch by White. And it's Mike Witt going all the way as the Angels take the first game of the ALCS 8-1.